All right. And we are live. What's going on, Elite Brokers? Matty Ice here. Man, I'm excited about this. We got another awesome training for you guys. Got an icon in the industry, Mr. Konar from founder of Business Lending Blueprint. Going to share some awesome wisdom with us today, some awesome knowledge. And so make sure you guys take notes. Uh, really quick, just a couple basic things, guys. If you have questions, drop them down in the comments and I can actually bring them up and we can bring them up for Oz. And if you do me a favor, please smash the like button. It does help with the algorithm as well. And yeah, let's get rocking and rolling. Oz, great to have you, man. Really appreciate your time. How you doing?
Thank you, man. Thanks for the warm welcome. Great to be here. Appreciate it. I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing good, man. I'm really excited. Like I was telling you before we went live, I had a lot of people reach out after I set this up that were really excited and like, man, what took you guys so long to do this? So I'm glad we were finally able to get connected and put something together for people. So I know we're gonna share some awesome stuff here. So just to get started, here's the thing. A lot of my audience already knows who you are. Like I said, you're an icon in the industry. But why don't you just give us like really quick for anybody who hasn't heard of you yet or the Business Lending Blueprint, just give like a quick 2 minute background on how you got into the industry, what your experience has been like.
Yeah, like you said, I'm the founder of Business Lending Blueprint. So the way this all started was I had a corporate job, like many people do, right? So I climbed the corporate ladder, and I found out that I'm only making like tiny commissions, residuals, selling credit card machines back in the days, those bricks. Someone introduced me to alternative lending industry, and I'm talking about like 10 years ago, a little more than that. Back then, it was alternative lending industry only consisted of like merchant cash advance, unlike right now. Right now, it's like over 20 plus products, and even more than that. So I made my
Right.
first commission by just talking to a couple of my existing customers. We funded $40,000, and I made 4,000 out of that. And that was like dream come true, right? So that's how much my father used to make in a month. So I took a picture of that check and sent it to my father, my wife. And so,
Right.
can you guys freaking believe this? Like, this is possible. So I couldn't even believe it, honestly. So then I started doing more of that. But I almost got fired from the company that I used to work at the time because I wanted to do an email blast, right? I said, because I was doing cold calling on the streets of New York City, which is brutal when you think about it. Like at one point, I remember I was walking on the street. It was like super cold, and I've been walking for like 30 minutes just to get to this place because I don't really know much about the subway system and all that. So they put me in New York City, my eyebrows froze. Like it's how cold it was. I said, I'm not doing this forever. It's pretty brutal. So just wanted to do
Yeah.
an email blast. Didn't know that it was against the company policy. That were against anything that's like, I guess, marketing savvy, right? They just wanted just, people just on the ground and just cold calling. So that didn't fly really well. I noticed that and when I did the email blast without their permission, I booked like 25 meetings. I'm like, there's gold mine here, but they're not letting me do it. That was the first glimpse of like entrepreneurship for me. So I took that and started my own company, and I started doing like advertising to generate leads. And I said, all right, the easiest way for me to make the biggest impact is just go to all these existing merchant cash advance companies. And I knew that they had all archaic systems like dial, smile and dial approach, like dial 300 people,
Right.
500 people a day. That's what I used to do too. So I started managing their accounts and made crap ton of money for them. But I noticed that this is like a pretty small industry even back then, and not a lot of people. So I just wanted to, I put together a training, and we had an email list of just ordinary people who just followed me online and they wanted to like get into the industry, but there was really no formal training back then. So I
Right.
offered it to them. It sold out in just less than 2 hours. So we got a lot of feedback out of that, and I updated the whole thing, which gave birth to the Business Lending Blueprint. So I was pretty much teaching, kind of innovating this industry as far as marketing is concerned, because even today, as you probably know, there are a lot of players who just, they just swear by cold calling. Like that's the way to do that. Well, we know that that works, but it's not sustainable and it's not scalable. That's the major problem with that. If I give you a phone, if I give myself a phone, I know I'm going to close deals. That's not a problem. The problem is, are you creating a job for yourself, or are you actually
Right.
starting a business? Businesses need to be scalable for you
Right.
to grow to a certain level. So it's kind of the background on the Business Lending Blueprint. Right now, we're a little over 5,000 brokers strong, and every day we're adding new people who just want to transform their lives either from a job to an entrepreneurship, or they were already a business owner and they picked the wrong vehicle, or it's not really working and they switch to this side. So that's what I do day to day. So we also do live events. I do run weekly calls, and I have my mastermind. So it's like a busy within the community, but a lot of good stuff as far as helping people grow their businesses from 0 to 5, 6, 7, 7 figures.
Sure, sure. Man, there's a lot of awesome stuff there. You've definitely paid your dues. I know I used to do insurance, and I did like door knocking and stuff like that. Like you said, it was brutal. But I did it here in Florida and Las Vegas, and hot as hell, sweating my rear end off. But I never had my eyebrows frozen off. That's pretty crazy. So definitely paid your dues. And I think that's a part of the entrepreneurial experience that sometimes people don't realize how valuable that can be, because that can really set the foundation for what you build from there. And it's kind of like that, just building up that hustle muscle. Like, how bad do you want it? If you're willing to go through all of that, and then you put in something like Facebook ads, or some type of email marketing, whatever, that seems like a walk in the park compared to what you've done before. So just that kind of stuff really helps set you up for success later on. So I really like that. And I like also what you said, the difference kind of between creating a job for yourself and actually having a real business. There's a really big difference there. And I think a lot of people, they kind of start off where, it's kind of another job for them, but they slowly, get into actually turning it into a business using things like business lending blueprint and stuff like that. So yeah, that's awesome stuff, man. So why don't let's actually transition into what exactly the business lending blueprint is. How does it work? And then I want to get into some specifics later on, but give us a breakdown. Like, what exactly is the business lending blueprint? Is it like kind of like a step-by-step roadmap from start to finish? Like, here's how you build this business. Like, walk us through that.
Absolutely, yeah. So when you kind of drill down to it, there are like 4 steps to building this business successfully, right? The first one is you got to have good lead sources. You got to be able to generate leads, your own leads. I'm not talking about purchasing leads, right? That's a bad way to generate leads. You're not generating, you're buying somebody else's junk pretty much. So the first, the step of this is you have to have control over how you can get access to businesses who need capital, which is actually fairly easy, because when you think about it, like more than 70% of the businesses who needed funding at some point, and most people who always wanted to start a business, but the chief reason they couldn't start a business is because of lack of funds, right? So you have 2 audiences. One is existing businesses. The other one is people who are entrepreneurial, who want to start a business. So that makes up a massive audience, given that there are more than 30 million businesses in the United States. That's like the first step. Second step is be knowledgeable enough to know what to offer them, right? So you got to have access to lending partners who are willing to work with you, so you can help them solve their problem. And not just about business lending blueprint, but in general, the size of the money, amount of the money that you make is in direct proportion to the size of the problem that you solve. And solving somebody's money problem is a pretty sizable problem, right? Most businesses suffer. Like, it's not like helping somebody, I don't know, do marketing on social media. It's good that if they do it, if they don't do it, it's really not the end of the world. But if you sever somebody's access to capital, that could be detrimental, right? Their business is gone. So it's a pretty serious problem to be able to help someone get access to capital. So that's the second step. You need to know different lending options, so you're not pushing everyone into just one box, which is historically what had been happening in this industry. Everyone is just selling merchant cash advance, whether the client is a good fit for that or not. Though that's all they know. Even the larger players, I coached a lot of them, and that seems to be the going theme. They're just, that makes the most amount of money. We'll just keep pitching it. But then you're kind of killing any future relationship with that customer because of renewables. So that's the second step. The third step is being trained on that. So now you might have the leads, you know the products. It's just, how do you approach this? Like, are you gonna be the broker yourself? Are you gonna talk on the phone and present the options and do the paperwork, do the follow and fund the deal, or you're going to rely on a team of people who do it on your behalf and do that. And the last one is scaling the business. Because in business, a lot of people just want to go from $0 to $1 million, right? I wish it worked that way, but it doesn't. There are like steps in between, the milestones. Like the first step is usually matching what you're making right now through a job. If you do have a job, if you're making 5K right now, your first goal is not to go from 0 to 10,000 a month. Your first goal is to get rid of that job. That's the last part, scaling. So when you take care of these 4 parts, it's beautiful. That's what business lending blueprint is. But within the trading stuff, like you said, it's a step-by-step guide, but it's not just a massive amount of content dumped on somebody. It gives the direction. For example, we have coaches, like one-on-one coaches. You can literally book a Zoom call with your assigned coach, depending on the topic they're having problem with. Let's say you're just starting out and you're like, all right, I'm going through this content. It's beautiful, but I'm a little lost on like my first step. What do we do? Then your coach brings you your 90-day plan. We build it together. Then we have more advanced coaches. For example, let's say you're trying to fund $1 million deal, right? And you're trying to structure the offer properly. Then we have coaches who can help you with that. And we did a weekly call, like a group call. So we know that people have different learning modalities. So for me, I learn by reading stuff, right? So I do read a lot. But I know many people, they can learn through watching, or others, they learn through interaction. So it has to be one-on-one. So we accommodate to multiple personality types to make sure that if someone enrolls into BLB, they're not just buying information, they're just getting a business in the box that's catered to their goals. Because we have people who join and they've been in the industry for like 10 years and they're stuck at like $20,000 per month level. They want to they're trying to get to 100,000 a month. We have others who never heard of this before. They're joining for the first time and their first goal is to close their first deal, right? So you have to be able to accommodate to both audiences.
Right.
And that's what BLB is in a nutshell, pretty much.
Gotcha. So yeah, it sounds like, would you say then, I mean, something like BLB, it can be catered to just about anybody, whether they're just getting started, absolutely no experience in the industry whatsoever, or somebody who is a veteran and is just looking to take it to the next level. It can work for just about anybody, assuming they're willing to apply themselves.
Yeah, like you said, as long as they're entrepreneurial and they're okay with taking coaching, right? If someone thinks that they know everything, obviously we're not for them. This is for people who can be vulnerable and be like, all right, I need to change something, whatever that is. And then you gotta like the concept, right? If you don't want to be in financial services industry, you don't need to be. You can do some other stuff. But if you wanna, what I know is like proximity gives you power, right? You gotta be close to money. And there's no better industry than being in the financial services if you want to be close to money, right? If you want to make a lot of money, if that's your thing, then it does help being in the financial services industry, because most people, like I'm talking about consumers, one of the top reasons that they have financial problems because they lack the understanding of finance, especially credit, like how to use credit, how to do it to your advantage. It's not just making money. It is preserving what you have and also taking advantage of opportunities. You got to combine all of that. So if you're someone like that, you want to understand, because I have people honestly who invest in BLB just to understand the industry, just believe it or not, because I think everyone is going to be entrepreneurial and trying to make money. That's not always the case. Sometimes people just want to know about the industry more in depth. And we have investors who join just because they're about to buy a company from the industry. They just want to understand the landscape. But yeah, you got to be willing to learn. You got to be coachable, and you got to like the industry. If you don't, just don't just go to something else maybe.
Right. There was something you said earlier that I really want to ask you about, get your take on. You were talking about generating your own leads, and as one of the parts of building this business, which is pretty much what EliteBroker focuses on. We focus on the lead generation, lead conversion side, getting people on the phone, getting those leads into the pipeline. And I like how you distinguish between the two audiences, where you have your startup companies who need money, and then you have your current businesses that need money. What is your take on the quality of leads? Like that's one of the things that I get sometimes. I get asked pretty frequently is about the quality of the leads. maybe their revenue is low, they're startup companies or whatnot. What would you say, like, how would you answer that question when people ask about the quality of the leads? Because it seems to me that if you have that next step that you mentioned, having a complete network of different lenders and loan products that you can offer to people, you can really service. You should be able to service just about anybody. So, what would you say about like when you're generating leads when it comes to the quality of them?
Yeah, it's a great question. So that's always a problem, right? So people they run Facebook ads, for example, and they say all the leads are bad. Then you put them on LinkedIn and they say all the leads are slow. You put them on YouTube ads, and there's always a reason why leads are not that good.
Right.
And
Right.
the way I cover that is, do not forget that these people that you're calling bad leads, they probably bought something a few moments ago from someplace, right? It could be Amazon or some other resource. And the people that you're attracting, let's say you're running, because there's always this discussion between lead providers and lead generators. Always Facebook better than LinkedIn, is channel better than other one? Should we go with TikTok? Do not forget that these are all the same people, right?
Right.
Who's opting in through Facebook probably has a LinkedIn account, and also they might have a TikTok account, or maybe they are just using TikTok to go through some videos, right? So if this is all the same people, same segment of the population, what is happening? Well, they behave differently on different social platforms, right? So when you're generating leads through Facebook, historically speaking, it requires a higher, longer period of nurturing, right? So, but if you're generating through LinkedIn, it's a lot more personable. The volume of leads will be lower, but the quality will be a lot higher, right? Because that's just how they behave on LinkedIn. For example, I understand social media, but if someone sends me a message on LinkedIn, the way I interact is way different than the way I interact if I see an ad on Facebook. So if I see an ad on Facebook, I might be a lot more skeptical, even if I fill out my information in there, unless the company that I filled out with does follow up with me, right? Then I might not really get involved. But on LinkedIn, if I'm getting an email from a CEO of a company, I might interact right away, or someone that who I'm interested in talking to.
Yeah.
So we kind of, and this is a complex topic. I'm not saying that people just confuse for the wrong reasons. They're rightfully confusing this, because this is the deeper end of the marketing. We're talking about multi-channel marketing, multi-step marketing. That's why having the proper marketing funnel is super important. The other thing people forget about is that don't forget that the purpose, I know this is going to sound controversial, but the main purpose of paid advertising, the step one, is to break even, not to make profit, right?
Right.
So spending $1,000 on ads, your goal on the first level is not to make 10,000. It's to break even, so you get your ad cost back, bring it home, you end up with leads. So now you spent $1,000, you got it back, but you ended up with 1,000 leads, let's just say, right? That's a win. Now, converting these 1,000 leads, and if you think of this as a funnel, the top of the funnel is wider, you're going to put 1,000 leads in there, and the bottom is way narrower. A few of them will fall through. Most people totally miss that funnel, and they don't have that at all. So what happens is they just paid a bunch of money, they got a bunch of leads, they go, oh my God, all of these people are not good fit and they're not going to buy anything. Well, do you have products that they would be a good fit for? Even though the person who filled out the form said zero revenue, zero time in business, credit score sucks. Well, if you're an alternative lender, if you're a business loan broker, there are products that are a good fit for that person, for them to fix that very problem they have. Zero revenue, bad credit, zero time in business, right? But if you don't know that because that's why the paid advertising is a little more complex model that requires you to follow a proven system instead of you trying to figure it out yourself. That's why most people who run paid advertising, they stop on month 2 because they don't have a system. They just expect just to put money from one end and have the money be spit out or double from the other end. It does work that way. I actually, interesting, I recently interviewed, like last week, one of our students who's been with us for 4 years. The guy was saying that he got paid advertising to a point that he puts $1, he gets $6 on the back end. It's like 6x's his return, and he's been doing this for 4 years. And he learned that from one of the masterminds. So going back to your question, I know this is a long-winded answer because it is one of those questions that I can't be like, oh, all of these are good. That's not necessarily so, but all the leads are not bad. It's just what you do with that. Does that make sense?
Oh, 100%. I hope you guys were taking notes on that. And that's one of the things that I explicitly talk about when I'm onboarding a brand new elite broker onto the system is when we get to the Facebook ads section, I tell them, like, look, Facebook ads are a phenomenal way to build a pipeline. You can generally get really low cost leads. They're usually high intent. They want to speak to somebody. And it's really good for building your pipeline, but it's a long-term lead generation strategy. You can't come into it thinking that you're going to close $10,000 in your first 30 days, and then you're just going to turn it off. Like if you're only going to do it for 30, 60 days, then you're kind of just wasting your time and money. And I think, let me know what you think about this. I think part of it is it's hard. It's a mindset shift that needs to take place, because I think what happens is when getting into a business like this, where there's a qualification process, there's documents that need to be submitted. It's kind of a long-term sales cycle for closing loans. When you're running Facebook ads, you want that immediate gratification, almost like you're selling an e-commerce product or something like that. Like you're going to close something right now. But when you have a business like this dealing with financial services, it's a process. And that's why having those follow-up systems in place really long-term are so important, because as you mentioned, if you can get those 1,000 leads and you get that paid for, you just break even selling maybe credit repair or something like that. You built your list for free. Now you just follow up with the 1,000 leads over the next 3 to 6 months. And correct me if I'm wrong, but those deals are going to start to come through, and that's when the real money starts to come in. But so many people don't stick with it long enough to get to that point.
For sure. Yeah. It depends on how you set the expectation, right? You shouldn't be doing any marketing without proper expectations. So, because if you do start without any expectations, you don't know what to expect, and you don't sell with what you get, right? So a lot of times, like you said, if the goal is, all right, I'm going to put this in and tomorrow it's going to 10x, it really doesn't work that way. But if you have the proper training in the system in place, a certain percentage of that can be instant gratification. Like, for example, we have people who set up funnels with a logic that if the leads are not a good fit for immediate funding, it is directing them to a page where you automatically sell credit repair, like in full automation, right? So you spend $10 to get these 10 leads, and one of them buys the credit repair for $300. Well, your $10 became $300 right now, right? So you get that money back. A lot of times it's just, that's why like usually our members start with like organic outreach, like organic marketing, fund a few deals. So they know that it is, because it's just this whole process is the process of proving to yourself that this actually works, right? When you make an investment into a new business, although you believe in the industry, you don't know if it is going to work for you. That's always the inside battle that we all have in our mind. Now, I get it. This is a legit industry. Everything is working for other people and they're having success. But will that work for me? That's why like getting some kind of win on the get-go is super important. So people kind of relax a little bit if that happens. Let's say it's the first appointment, the first call, whatever it is. The second part of faster results getting is that especially with business lending blueprint, you don't have to understand the back end, right? We have partners who do the heavy lifting for you, so you can actually generate leads and have it booked on our lending partners page, and they do everything else for you. They call the lead, they collect the documentation, they close the deal, right? So you're not making as much commission, but you can become just a marketer, figure that out, right? The problem is when you try to figure out everything, the entire universe, and try to do it in 30 days. Don't forget that mastery comes over time. You're not going to master something in 30 days, and it takes a year or 2 years sometimes to master it. That's when I see usually our members moving into becoming like a funding partner, doing syndications and all kinds of stuff, because they stuck with it. That's why like setting the right expectation on the get-go is important. Number one question is, what am I trying to accomplish with this? Am I going to be funding my own deals? Like when the lead comes in, am I okay with making the phone call? Or am I too shy or inexperienced to do that? Because if you have not made that decision, guess what's going to happen? You're not going to fucking make a damn phone call. Like you're going to have these leads accumulate. That's usually what happens, right? So I ran into that for a week. Yeah, so I got 500 leads. Well, what happened to them? I didn't call them. Well, guess what? You don't have leads anymore. They're dead. So you can't call them a week later, So what you got to know your capacity at that given time. When you run ads, It's like adding fuel to the fire. You're going to get a crap ton of leads. But what are you going to do when that happens? Right? People
Right.
really don't think that through. Once you know that next step, things are a lot easier for you to move from that point on.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I think that's huge. Would you say that one of the biggest ways, one of the like upfront sales is usually credit repair? Are there other different products that, like, if they're not qualified for funding, are there other things that you guys offer to monetize your leads to kind of try and break even on any ad spend?
Yeah, there are actually many options. So credit repair is one of them. Co-signer is another one of them. Like if someone, let's say, wants to start a business or they lack the revenue and they need anywhere from 0 to 100%. So there is a product called SLOC, like syndicated line of credit. And if they do have a co-signer, that person can get qualified without having to be the partner in the business. It can be like a third party person using borrowing their credit pretty much to fund this business, and 60% of the people do have someone. If it is proposed properly, they can come up with someone who can help them with that situation. And let's say it's also an existing business, ERTC is another option, right? So revenue, the credit score might not be there, but if they had employees and if they retained any
Right.
W2 employees in the past 2 3 years, they can get access to funds. And while that's happening, it can be bridge loans and whatnot being set up.
Yeah,
And
sure.
it's all about like the positioning. Sometimes businesses have other businesses that you don't talk about. Another option is utilizing their personal property. If they have many business owners, the majority of them own their own personal residence, right? So it can be utilized to pull funds from to inject some cash into the existing business. So there's not just credit repair. It's just we have a concept called flow chart. Actually, I can grab it from the other door. It's a big poster pretty much that we mail out to each member. It is like the mind map of what to do when you get in front of a lead. So you can
Nice.
do just follow that. And I had it here all framed up. Everyone gets that in the mail. So it just leads you pretty much what to say. That's going to lead you to the next point and next product in the cycle.
Right. Yeah, because there's a excuse me. I mean, there's a process that people can follow, and if you just learn and follow that process, then because there's so many different types of products that you can offer to business owners, that you should be closing a decent chunk of your leads at some point, as long as you're putting in the
Yeah.
work, whether that's credit repair or these other things. You just have to I think part of it is people don't know that stuff is available, right? And again, I think it goes down back to, they want to hit that $10,000 commission or whatnot, but you don't realize there's a process to get to that. You're not just going to knock it out of the park right away. There's a process that you have to follow. That's pretty cool. You guys send out kind of that mind map. I think that's pretty cool. So,
Do you want me to show it to you? I can grab it real quick if you want to.
sure. Yeah, go ahead. Guys, while we're waiting on him to come back, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and drop them down in the comments. I'll bring them up on screen. Just drop them in the comments.
This thing is kind of big, but
For sure.
this is what it looks like when it is all framed up. So this is literally like a mind map on what to ask and what to say in response. And at the end, it leads to certain partners that you can just contact within our community. Because one thing about alternative lending industry, most of the information you need can't be Googled. So all the partners and lenders, even if you find them online, they're not going to work with brand new brokers. Especially this is getting more and more strict, because lenders want to make sure that the brokers they work with are safe, meaning that they haven't been involved in any illegal activity or anything like that. So if that's the case, you need to have access to the right partners. For example, one of our members, Bliss, she's been in the industry for 2 years. She just funded a deal for a business expansion for $20 million, and she made 200,000, right? What's the problem with this deal? Well, in traditional landscape of alternative lending, alternative lending doesn't usually go up to 20 million in funding, right? So when you your ceiling is like 1 to 2 million. But when you have the niche products, she's been niching down in certain areas of expansion lending and getting to know specific lenders and building those relationships. Sky is the limit. Another person funded 50 million and made commission. Someone funded a freaking coal mine and Chinese investors bought the coal mine in the United States type of thing. So it's not something that you can kind of Google and find out about, right? So these lenders are private lenders. That's the beauty of this industry. The size of it is massive. You can do a merchant cash advance loan for 10,000 and still make whatever your 8 points, 10 points on it, or you can be funding 20, 30 million dollars. It's just as long as you decide what role you're going to play in this game of life, that you decide how far you want to go. So there's no shame in setting up smaller or larger goals. Some people have the goal of making $5,000 of side income. It's perfectly fine. Others have more initiative. They're a lot more entrepreneurial and they want to build a 7-figure organization.
Sure. No, 100%. And I think, especially when you're getting started, you don't really have to know all of that right off the bat. Like you don't have to know that you want to work within the coal industry or whatever. That comes over time. Like for me in marketing, when I first got started, I was doing it for a half a dozen different industries, just trying to get some experience. And over time, I started to zero in on the business loan space. And now we have EliteBroker, right? But it was a process. I didn't just wake up and like, okay, I'm going to do marketing for business loans. You get started, learn your craft, and slowly over time, you're going to start to realize who you like working with better and just who you close more deals with, like what industry that is. And eventually you can narrow in on that. And correct me if I'm wrong. Once you can become the expert for that particular industry, that's when your income can really take off.
Absolutely. It catapults you, right? Because in every industry, the top players have very little competition. In alternative lending, top players have almost no competition. Because it's one of those niche industries already as is, because no one wakes up wanting to be a business loan broker in alternative lending industry. They don't know enough. We're in this blue ocean area. There's like not a lot of competition. But if you become an expert in that area, so that skill set, that stays with you. That's like the best investment you can make because you're close to private money. There's no limit of private money, right? I think it was last week that one company bought another lending company for $50 million. And this is not a huge company. So companies change hands. So when you build this business, you already have an exit strategy if you do it the right way anyways. And you have repeat customers. There are funding options that pay you up front. There are funding options that pay you passively. There are funding options that pay you on a residual basis. So those three are super important because as you know, you want your passive income to surpass your earned income at some point in your lifetime. That's the definition of financial freedom. And you want to have a vehicle that allows you to do that. And if you, again, many people will never know that because of the size of the industry. But once you get into this universe, you kind of learn a lot. And we have many people, they kind of wow themselves after 6 months being into it. There's just a lot to know. That's why you're right on. The focus is not, oh, what do I need to focus on? What do I need to niche down on? That's going to come over time because you got to build affinity towards certain interests. Like I have people niching down on certain geographies. Like maybe you grew up in Long Island and you know it, everyone. So that could be your niche. I have people niching down on products. Some people like equipment leasing better than others. I have people niching down on certain industries. Like I have people working in the medical industry. So if you don't know that, that's okay. That's most of the people. That comes over time, like yourself, right? Maybe you were in love with marketing in general. Over time, it gets segmented further and further, and you end up here. That's how it just works.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So give yourself some time to succeed in this industry. All right. You don't have to knock it out of the park right away. You don't have to know your exact niche right away. But this is a high ticket business. You stick with it. You can do really well. And that kind of brings me to the next thing I wanted to discuss because nowadays we really have everything we could ever possibly need to succeed in a lot of different industries, especially this one. You got business lending blueprint, you've got EliteBroker, you've got YouTube, right? You can learn anything you want on YouTube. But like I see people making progress, they're getting new leads, they're having a conversation and stuff, but then, you know, they quit a few months later on down the road. So what would you say is the biggest difference between people who succeed in this business and those who fail? What are like one or two things that you see that make that big difference?
It's a great question. So people, when they start a new entrepreneurial journey, they do mean well, right? So I do believe with all my heart that anyone, you know, who joins your program, like your system or my program, they do mean well for themselves and they really want to make a change. But the biggest differentiator that I've seen over the years dealing with hundreds of people is the change in environment. If you do not change environment, you're in trouble, right? Because you've been I guess, growing in this small pot and you want to grow branches and fruits, but you're still sitting in that small pot and it just
Right.
doesn't work, right? You need to expand yourself. So that doesn't mean that you should dump your girlfriend, wife, husband, spouse, and friends and family, but that means
Don't
that
get divorced,
well,
guys.
yeah, don't do that. But you can expand your audience. The biggest
Sure.
differentiator I've seen is you have to change your environment, right? So hang out with like-minded people so you don't forget what the potential is, right? Because the biggest trap comes, I guess people have good intentions, people around you, right? Because I think
Sure.
the saying that path to hell is paved with good intentions, right? People around you, they want to help you, but they just don't know any better and they pull you down without knowing you, without noticing it. That's why being a part of a like-minded community is super important. So you're reminded all the time. Like I invest a lot into masterminds. I'm spending over $100,000 a year just so I have access to certain people so I can share their vision, right? So some of the
Right.
people that I know, they're running a 150 million company. The other one is running $500 million company. If I did not sit down and talk to them, I would not have believed that that would be possible because my network doesn't believe that that's possible. When I first started my own business, all of my friends had a job. So owning your own business was not a thing, right? We would just get together and bitch about our bosses, right? That's what it
Sure.
thing, that's what it was. But once I noticed that that's not contributing to my success and my immediate circle of friends, I don't have access to them. I grew up in a poor family, so I wasn't brought up with those rich principles. Then I wanted to go get what the information they have access to. Otherwise, anyone who means well and they start something, they will they will kind of lose that momentum over time because they're not changing their environment. That's
Right.
just natural progression. That's just how it works, right? So
Right.
when you make that decision, yeah, learning is great, applying is great, but the biggest differentiator was consistency. Small steps for the longest period of time, not massive spikes. You usually see people taking massive action for the first 30 days and they just come crashing down and they just disappear because they didn't see the results that they wanted. So to me, that's like the biggest differentiator. Wherever you find a group of like-minded people, whatever it takes, stay close to them. Yeah, that's the way out, pretty much out of where you are right now.
Right. Man, that's really powerful. What that makes me think of is, yeah, and you're spot on with that, because I'm thinking about the difference between those that stick with Elite Broker for a long time that have the most success with it
Yeah.
tend to be the brokers that are part of a really good team.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they're not just a solo broker. You know, I do have solo brokers that do really well, and you know they have their own environments that they work on and stuff like that, but I do notice that the people that are surrounded by like-minded people, they're on the same path, they're all trying to crush it together. They tend to do a lot better. They tend to get a lot better results. So that's just something to think about, guys. Is who are you surrounding yourself with, or even so obviously surrounding yourself with the right people is good, but who are you getting on the phone with every
Mm-hmm.
single day? Who are you checking in with every single day? Are you active in these Facebook groups like bob Elite Broker? We have these groups where of people who are on a very similar path. Are you connecting with those people? Because what I said, man, that's huge. And I noticed that when I came back from Vegas. I moved back from Vegas to Jacksonville, Florida, and I changed up my environment a little bit. And it's always so interesting because anytime I'd come back from Vegas, my life would just go, it would go up. It would just do. I would just do much better in my business and everything. It was just the most bizarre thing in the world. But I think it comes down to what you're saying is that environment that you're in. Are you putting yourself in the right place to succeed with what you're trying to do? So I think that's huge, man.
And to that point, I feel the same way. For example, I'm a naturally introverted person, so I don't really like to go to events, right? But I know that it benefits me, so I push myself. Like you said, I go to events. On the way to the event, I'm like, I can't believe I'm going to this. This is gonna suck. I'm not gonna like this. Why am I going there? And on the way back, I'm like, oh my God, this was the best thing. I can do this. I can do that. So this is happening to a lot of other people too, right? So not everything needs to feel comfortable. We live in this society that you always are looking for to doing the most comfortable thing. Some things will bother you. That's how you know you grow, right? You're not designed to be happy all the time. You're not designed to be comfortable all the time. You got to push yourself out of your comfort zone. And for me, and maybe for you too, those are the events for me. Just showing up to a 500 people event and asking questions and being humbled by other people who know a lot more than you do, because it's a lot easier to pretty much feel great about your accomplishments until you see someone who's younger than you and who 10x their business more than you did, and you go, holy crap, man, what am I doing with my time, right? So the things that we're talking about, they don't need to cost money. Like you said, there are a ton of free Facebook groups, and there are a ton of like meetup gatherings. Like if you have a low budget, doesn't mean that you're left out. Like I used to go to a lot of meetup events in New York City, and a lot of them had an entry fee of like $5 or something. You would expose yourself to great people. So yeah, just be resourceful.
That's it's funny you say that, because I'm literally the same exact way when I'm on my way to an event. I'm good when I get there. I'm much more extroverted when I get there, but on my way there, I'm like, man, I really want to go to this. And it always happens that way. Like 9 times out of 10, it always, like on your way back from it, you're like, oh my God, I'm so glad I went to that. I've made some of my best connections, some of my best friends. I met at events that I really I didn't feel like going through. But the problem is if you stop yourself from doing stuff just because you don't feel like doing it, you're really slowing down your progress with what you're trying to do. So that's huge, guys. If you can get into meetups, maybe like your local chamber of commerce, stuff like that, just kind of start pushing out of your comfort zone, get around other business owners, and you'll notice a huge difference, man. So yeah, that's good stuff. Well, we're almost at the 45-minute mark. I want to respect your time. We'll go ahead and start wrapping up. I did want to ask if you could, really quick, what is for those that are not a member of BLB yet, what is the process? So do they book a call first, do a couple of strategy sessions, you do a demo? How does that process work?
Yeah, so we have a video that walks you through what the industry does and what BLB does and how it works. That's the first step. We want everyone to go through that to understand, because before you invest into anything, BLB is not a free platform. It costs money to get in. But before anyone does that, I want everyone to be thoroughly understanding what they're getting into, how it works, and what we do, and all of that. That is done through our free training video. And at the end of that, they can either invest and join on their own, or we give an option to schedule a call with our team, right? If you have additional questions, if you want to talk to a human being, explain your situation and ask your questions further, you can do that as well. So we give both options, so you have access to a team of people. And the average tenure of my team is 5 years. Like we don't have turnover. Like people who we hire, they've been, and some of our people have been from the industry, so we hire within our community, so they know a lot about this industry and what's going on. So if anyone is kind of looking into this, and maybe they've been with EliteBroker, so that's the process of joining, pretty much, because we want to make sure that we bring in the right people.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's good to you want to make sure it's a good fit. Like you don't want people coming on board. It's not a good fit for them, and then that just doesn't work out for anybody.
No, not at all.
If you guys are interested, I'll put a link down below in the description after the live events. Once I'll put the timestamp in and everything. You guys want to learn more about Business Lending Blueprint? You can check out the video, book a call, get some more information, because I think the combination of you know, something like EliteBroker, which gives you everything for marketing, and then the roadmap to success from somebody that has built a very successful lending business. I mean, that's a pretty good combination. Like you don't really need much more than that. So if you guys aren't on board, I would definitely recommend at least checking it out. I had somebody here, unfortunately, I canceled at the last moment. I used to do that all the time too. Yeah, the inner critic. So you just what I do is I'll blast on some music. I'll get dressed. I'll hop in the car, and I just try to distract myself as much as possible. I've gotten a lot better with it now because I know I've done it so many times that I know it's going to be really good when I get there. So I don't really struggle with it as much. But yeah, do what you can to turn off that inner critic. So, all right, man, sounds good. Well, Oz, I really appreciate your time. Is any last words, any last things that you want to share with our audience before we wrap up?
No, man, this has been great questions. I hope your community benefits from this. And if there are any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me through YouTube or email. Just ask your questions, ask away, do your research. But most importantly, again, whether you do EliteBroker or Business Lending Blueprint or both, the most important thing, advice I can give someone, be more entrepreneurial. That's your saving grace, right? No matter what you do, just be more entrepreneurial and make sure that you have a business that generates income through thick and thin, through a recession or a change of presidency, whoever, right? Most people get hung up on stuff like this. Don't watch the news. Just focus on investing in yourself. The best ROI that I've ever gotten from any investment is investing in myself. And that's not because I'm unique. That's for everyone, not just me, everyone else. So don't worry about anything else. Just keep investing in marketable skill sets that will make you different in the marketplace, no matter what's happening around you.
Absolutely. Making yourself bulletproof. I try to tell myself that every day. What can I do today to make myself more bulletproof, make the business more bulletproof, regardless of what's happening in the world? And at the end of the day, that comes down to investing in yourself, investing in your skill sets, just getting better and better and better at what you're doing. So awesome, man. Well, like I said, Oz, really appreciate your time. This was some really good stuff. I'm sure we're going to get some awesome feedback on this. And hopefully we can do this again sometime in the future. I look forward to it.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right, man. We'll take care and we'll talk soon.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, guys.